Okay, with the STARLINK Mini, instead of using the AC wall wart, which is 30 volts DC at 2 amps, I'm going to go ahead and use a Pan 3520 linear supply by Kikusui and connecting that up to the stock 50-foot cable that comes with the kit, which is really too long for low voltages, but I just want to see what happens. So I've got this here, and I wouldn't recommend you do stuff like this unless you got the polarity right. I don't want to be responsible for blowing up stuff, but I'm going to plug this in here like this. And the STARLINK Mini's outside. And turn this on here. Got the current limit not set high enough, so I'm going to go ahead and kick this up to about, let's go to about 5 amps just for kicks. I had to reshoot this because I had a little bit of a cockpit error, what happens. So we got about 35 volts, and we've got about 37 watts here. Normally it kind of drifts down to about 20 after it runs for a while. There you go, about 18. I think if it hasn't been on, it tends to phone home, it does some stuff. I got about 18 to 22 watts with the wall wart as the AC input. We've got a shunt here like this. That's a DC power meter. Got about 22 watts. So that's at 35 volts. And I got the voltage checked here with 8060A. That's an IBM model. That's actually a fluke. So we're going to go ahead and drop this down to 30 volts. Now, the Wi-Fi it's transmitting Wi-Fi, but I don't have any computers or anything connected to this. So it's just sitting there idling, the STARLINK Mini out in the backyard, 50 feet away. You get about 18 watts. Go ahead and drop the input DC voltage. Let's go to 28 volts, which is kind of like a good military voltage. It's about 19 to 20 watts. That's a DC watt meter. We'll go down to 24 volts, which is kind of like 2 car batteries in series, sort of. It's kind of the lower voltage range. At 0.8 amps. That fan is on the back of this. That's a Kikusui 35 volt 20 amp power supply. It's the non-A model. The A model, like this guy here, has got a button you push in the back to go from internal to external sense. The non-A model, you have to put a jumper across. So down about 17. So go down to about 20 volts. And before I had a little bit of weirdness going on in the sense that was jumping around using a bunch of power when I got to the low end, like the internal power supply, and the STARLINK was not happy. Well, that's happy there. Go down to about 18 volts. It's kind of like if you used a battery pack off a power drill. Still got the 18, 19 watts, which is kind of cool. Now I'm going to go smaller increments as we approach 12 volts. There's 15. Yeah, let's go. Let's say about 14.4. That's kind of like a car battery with the alternator running, sort of. Just notice it went up to 46 watts. Let's see if that settles down. So it's either every now and then it phones home, it's got to use a burst of power, or it just doesn't have enough headroom off the wimpy wire. So I've noticed in other experiments, when you go down a low voltage with the long 50-foot line, it all of a sudden wants to draw a burst of power. Now if I look at the max current limit here, let me go bump this up a little bit higher. Let's say we could put out about 8 amps here. So what kind of doesn't make any sense is that, there you go, down to 18 watts, now up to 40. So I don't know if it's got probably has a diode so you don't blow it up, and maybe it's got a little regulator that's not a series regulator, maybe it's a DC to DC, and then it just is running out of headroom with the long wire. So I've got some shorter wires on order. I want to redo this. But they didn't come in time, so I said, let me just do it with the long cord. So it's not downloading something. Every now and then it just wants to take a burst of power, so that's kind of screwball. Let's go down here to 13.8 volts. And at the higher voltages, what it normally does is it may go up like that for a second or two, but it always just smooths down at the low wattage idle, say 18 to 20 watts. And let's go down here to 12. Let's go to 12 and a half. It's drawn up to 60 watts there. And that's why I was saying don't do this at home, because I don't want to be responsible for blowing up anybody's STARLINK Minis if I'm doing something really screwball here. So yeah, it's drawn 50 watts. Let's go down here to 12. 11, let's go down to 11 and a half. So he just dropped out. Not drawing any current. Let's go down real low and come back up. There's 10 volts. It's like the regulator in there is inside the unit's not happy. 10 and a half. 11 and a half. That cannot be good. It's dancing around like that. It's drawing a lot of power, probably doing something screwball in there with the long 50-foot stock line. Way too long. Let's go 12.6. So I'm just going to go up to see when it's kind of happy. There's 13. 14.6. 14.2, 14.4, say. Should really put an oscilloscope on, see what's going on. It's still jumping up in the 40s every now and then. Yeah, it's happy there. So it really likes to use higher voltages. Again, I'm not even using the unit in the sense that it's not doing anything with data. It might just be pinging home to say I'm online, but it's not really drawing any data. So again, what's happened is if I drop the voltage, the wattage seems to be all over the place like a yo-yo because it's not happy going through the wet noodle of a long line. This power supply is going to be stiff as can be because it's a 20 amp supply. So it's probably not the supply being yanked around. It got really big beefy wires to here, so it's not that. It's just going through this long connection. Either the voltage drop to there, that adds to it. If you get 3 amps over 50 feet through a little dinky line, you probably might be only getting dropping a couple volts down there at the unit. And I really don't know what the resistance is of this. I should probably put a short on that and check that out because that's what's going on. It's just running out of headroom. So with the stock 50-foot cable, you better use a higher voltage or get a shorter cable. Okay, instead of using the AC wall wart to the STARLINK Mini, I'm going to drive this with the DC linear supply here. This cord here goes and connects to the STARLINK Mini that's out on the back porch. Got 50 feet of cord. And we've got a regulated Kikusui power supply here. The stock wall wart here, AC adapter, says it's 30 volts at 2 amps right here. And the center pin is positive. You do all this at your own risk. I don't want to blow up anybody's stuff, but what I'm looking at here, just by the way, I want to look at the no load when it's not downloading or anything, what the power consumption is. And the last test I did, I think it was 20 watts just sitting there. So I've got a DC power meter here that looks like this. It's got a shunt. There's the shunt. And I've got this set. This reads amps here, and this is the voltage input. And here it is up on here too.